Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I am joined here, as always, by the man who, if he puts the Raiders at number 4 on this list, we will riot. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. We'll see how this division goes. This is a tough division. It's going to be there's definitely going to be some controversy when it comes to these picks. This is going to be the most talked about episode, guaranteed.
Oh, yeah. I was on record. I teased this last week saying this is the most overrated division in football. I stand by it. I think this division has a lot of great offenses. I think if you're just looking at offenses, this division looks good. The defenses, that's where things get a little tricky.
Yeah, and you even titled it NFC West to throw people off. You didn't want too many haters coming after us.
I did title it the wrong one. I fixed it on the YouTube feed, so we're okay there. But yeah, listen, not a spelling YouTube channel. All right, if you're looking for me to spell titles right, you're at the wrong place.
Yeah. Do we even need to get into how this works, or should we just dive right into it?
We know how it works. Let us know who's going to be at number 4.
All right. So like you were saying, is it an overrated division? Potentially, because here's the argument. I think this is the most balanced division in football. I have it as my number 1 division in football because I think there's a real argument for all 4 of these teams to make the postseason. I think there's a real argument for all 4 of these teams to finish 4th in this division. And I think there's a real argument for all 4 of these teams to finish 1st in their division. So this is going to be really difficult. This is the first time I went through and did my game-by-game predictions before this episode because I figured it was going to be splitting hairs. Ended up going to the end of it. I had all 4 of these teams over 500.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be tough. I have 2 teams making the playoffs. One team might make a run towards the Super Bowl. I'm pretty excited about them. We'll see how it goes. So let's get right into it. Number 4, Las Vegas Raiders.
Boo.
I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. This is a really tough one for me because, like I said, I could see this team winning 13 games. I could see this team winning 8 or 9 games. I honestly could see them having that high of a ceiling. But I just think there's enough things for me here to nitpick just a bit that I can be a little bit worried. Yes, they have probably the best pass-catching group of this division with Darren Waller, with Davante Adams, with Hunter Renfrow. The depth behind it, not so awesome. But the problem is, too, I'm worried about how they're going to block to get those guys open. And on the other side, I'm worried about how they're going to cover anybody. I think this coverage unit is going to be really tough to watch. I think it might hurt this division. So I got the Raiders going 4th. That being said, I did have them in my predictions. I had them 9-8, and I could see that being much higher too.
Yeah, they're a unique team. They're one of the more inconsistent teams. They might be the most inconsistent team in football. Where what's good about them is really good. What's bad about them is very bad.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's exactly what the problem is. And I think that's going to be interesting to see how this team is because I think that we're going to see some tier 5s in this group and we're going to see some tier 1s and 2s.
Yes, also, in the comments, we have some people saying, yay, I'm finally able to catch a stream. Also, 10 seconds in, and I wonder how I ever subscribed to this little worm. So, mixed reviews right away.
All right. So that means we're off to a great start.
Yeah. Let's start off with the 2 guys at the top of every football team. Derek Carr, the quarterback, he was 13th in my quarterback rankings, which unfortunately gets him in tier 3, even though I've always kind of maintained he's sort of a tier 2 type quarterback. And then you have Josh McDaniels, who was 21st on my head coach rankings. So, Carr is Carr. He will be consistent. He will be good. He probably, won't win MVP, but hey, he's been a fringe MVP candidate before. So, and even a straight up MVP candidate before. So it's possible. Maybe the Davante Adams edition will help him. For Josh McDaniels, I think that he is someone who, I guess, let me give the floor to you. How do you feel as a longtime Patriots fan? How do you feel this Josh McDaniels thing will go?
I think he's a really creative play caller. I think he's one of the better ones in the league when it comes to that. I think it's really tough to kind of gauge, though, exactly what he is. So I saw a report about the best offenses heading into the next season. And it talked about Josh McDaniels. And Josh McDaniels, DVOA offenses, he's had 2 DVOA offenses in the top 10 without Tom Brady. That is 2008 Patriots, which were just coming off an undefeated season, had Randy Moss, Wes Welker, pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then the 2021 Patriots, which were exactly 10th. I think it was interesting because, all the I don't want to say reports, rumors were that he's basically Bill Belichick's next man in line for the job. Whenever Belichick wants to retire, he decided to go and take this job. This is a make or break moment for him, for his career, I think. I think this is his last chance to be an NFL head coach. I think he's got to prove it. But like I said, I think he's a creative play caller, but we'll see how he builds the roster and see how he likes his team built in total. We haven't seen a lot of guys have success outside New England when they left the Belichick tree.
Yeah. The best thing about this team and the most exciting thing about this team is the addition of Davante Adams. This wide receiving core is great. You have the three guys with Davante Adams, Hunter Renfrow, and Darren Waller, all fantastic at what they do. The depth, you could argue maybe they could use a little bit more depth with, Demarcus Robinson and Keelan Cole to round out the receiving core. For, tight ends, you still have Foster Moreau, who I like. I don't love, but he's fine. Jacob Hollister should be fine depth. It's a tier 1 receiving core for me. I want 3 guys who can play. They have 3 guys who can play.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 guys that can play really well too. I mean, yeah. So I think, this is definitely a very good group. And like I said, this is probably the best pass catching group in the AFC West. Maybe the AFC. I haven't gone through it all, but I think it's pretty close. Probably not the Bengals, but it's close. Anyway, so I mean, with these 3 guys, I think that's just a really complete group. All of them are going to be able to catch. I really can't say anything else about it. I mean, this group it complements each other well. You have a lot of size, you have a lot of speed, you have Renfrow doing all that Hunter Renfrow stuff. It's a really fun pass catching group, and it's a really, dynamic group, I think, overall with those 3 players.
Also, apparently, according to the chat, Robinson was cut yesterday. So, okay, there we go. Learning stuff in real time here. But, yeah, I mean, I'm interested with the Hunter Renfrow thing, too, because, last year it seemed like the Raiders basically said, we're going to design a play, and then Hunter Renfrow, you're just going to try to get open. You just run, 15 moves in your, in your route, whatever you want to do. I'm interested in seeing if the new regime will do that. I would say probably. I think it'll probably be a good fit with them. The other weapons.
Success.
Yeah, I think so. The other weapons here for the halfbacks, Josh Jacobs, who I still like. I don't know if I love him, but I like him still at this point in his career. Again, running backs, they don't last forever. So there's that concern. But added Zamir White, who has looked good in preseason. You have Kenyon Drake, who is, he is still there. Brandon Bolden as well. It's a tier 3 halfback room for me. It was actually 1 spot away from being tier 2. There's stuff I like here, but again, there's better halfback rooms, I think.
Yeah, White's an interesting player. He was kind of a big-time player for the Georgia. Big touchdown machine, too. I think he had 11 touchdowns each of the last 2 years. So there's a lot to really like there as a backup. He's not much of a pass catcher. At least I don't remember him being that much of a pass catcher at Georgia. So I think that's one thing where he's not going to provide much that as a secondary back, but they have Kenyon Drake, who's good at that. So it's a pretty complete running back room, even if I don't think there's a star in this group.
Yeah, and again, Josh Jacobs he's someone who can do all 3. He can be a 3-down back. It's just a question of, mileage. The worst part about this offense is the offensive line, who Colton Miller is really he's the guy in the group project doing all of the work here with, the other tackles being Brandon Parker and Alex Leatherwood sort of, competing for that other tackle spot. Maybe one will be a guard. I don't know. 40 guards. You have Denzel Good, who's, he's probably he's a starter in the NFL. I don't know if he's much better than that, is what I would say. You also have Jermaine Illuminor, who should probably just be a depth piece, and then Andre James, who again is fine, but don't love this offensive line outside of Colton Miller, who is awesome. This is a tier 4 offensive line for me.
Yeah, I'm concerned about this group, and it's part of the reason why I'm concerned about this team, because it might be nice to have all those receiving options, but if they can't get open because you can't block, I mean, what's the difference? And I mean, from what I remember, I don't think Carr's the best under pressure either. I mean, not that any quarterback's great.
No, he's weirdly really good under pressure. That's just one of those weird things. You don't expect him to be good, but his numbers are actually very good under pressure.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah. But he's a big, okay, I'm under pressure. Let me just throw it up to my best receiver guy.
Okay. Well, I guess that works for him then. But that being said, still, I'm looking at this group and it's like, this is one Colton Miller injury away from being probably the worst offensive line in football.
Sure.
I mean, I think it's that bad.
You're not thrilled about the potential tackle tandem in that scenario of Brandon Parker and Alex Leatherwood?
I am not. I'm not whatsoever. So yeah, I think
Uh-huh.
that's a really rough group. I hope Miller stays healthy because he is really good. But that being
Mhm.
said, if one guy's blocking and four guys aren't, that means multiple guys are still getting through the offensive line. So I'm a little concerned. I'm deeply concerned about this group, and I think it could crater this team.
Yeah, they have a good, if you're trying to hide a bad offensive line, this is the team that could potentially do it with a quarterback who gets rid of the ball quickly, with guys who can get open quickly, with a, offensive play caller who makes an effort to get rid of the ball quickly. But there's still some concerns there. Ninth best offense for me. Moving over to the defense, the coverage, I think I'm a little higher on than you. I'm interested in this coverage unit. So the safeties I don't love. Trayvon Mullen was solid last year. I like what I saw from Trayvon Mullen. Jonathan Abrams is still on a roster, so that's weird. And then you added Deron Harmon, so I don't know if we're going to see anything from Jonathan Abrams. Maybe we'll see him used in a better situation with a new regime. I don't know, because there was a different defensive coordinator, but they ran the same scheme. So I don't know about that. But I like the corners, and corners is really the heart of every coverage unit. Trayvon Mullen is solid. I think Nate Hobbs was a great slot guy. And Rocky Sin, I'm interested in him. He's been very up and down, but he was coming off a good season. So if he can just play solid, you also have Anthony Everett, who's good depth. So the Rocky Sin thing is really what this coverage unit hangs on. I have it as tier 3 because I think that there is depth here. I like Hobbs and I like Mullen, but Rocky Sin is kind of the question. And if he plays like he did last year, this could still be a solid coverage unit, even with poor safeties.
Yeah, I feel like the problem I have with this group is I feel like if your best thing you have going for you is your slot corner, I'm out. I'm
Well,
out
but
on that
he was
group.
a really good slot corner last
Yeah,
year.
he's a terrific slot corner. But at the same
Mhm.
time, this entire defense changed with Casey Hayward in the lineup. This entire defense changed. He did everything for this
Yeah.
defense in the secondary. He was a
Mhm.
huge part of their coverage success, I thought, last season. And yeah, I mean, I think Rock Ya-Sin could be decent, but he's not going to be Casey Hayward and what he was for this team last season. I think that's a problem. Jonathan Abrams starting for this team is inexcusable, I think.
Yeah.
Everybody saw the tape on this guy the last 2 years. I don't know how this guy's getting another chance to earn this job, win this job, and potentially play downs in the NFL. I just don't understand that whatsoever. I think that's a really bad group. I mean, I think Mullen's okay when he's not committing penalties. So I think, there's parts to be kind of excited about. But once again, I keep coming back to, okay, good slot corner. I'm not really sure about anything else. Murray seems okay at the back, but at the same time, if your free safety and slot corner are leading this defense, I'm not exactly sold.
Yeah. Moving on to the front seven. You got some intrigue here in this front seven. You got Max Crosby. He's the highlight of the group, certainly. Chandler Jones, who, he's still shown he can pass rush. The run defense is a bit of a question. You still have Cleveland Ferrell there, who maybe can do some stuff. And for the interior, Nicholas Bile, Jonathan Hankins, and a fourth rounder, Neil Farrell Jr., who I didn't love what I saw from preseason, but, it's preseason. What do we know about that? Linebackers, Denzel Perriman, Jalen Brown, and Divine Diablo. Again, there's some stuff here. I think Max Crosby is really pulling a lot of the legwork here. I have it as a tier 3 pass rush and a tier 4 run defense.
Yeah, I think that's basically how I feel. I think Jones is still going to be able to get after the quarterback, which should only help Crosby because it's going to take a little more attention. I'm just worried about this group in the running game because I don't think they have awesome defensive tackles, and I just don't think Chandler Jones is the same guy or run stuffing linebackers either, honestly. And I don't think Chandler Jones is the same guy he was at his peak. I don't think he, kind of like you said, he's kind of based as a purely pass rusher now at his age and given his status. So, like I said, I think this team could get run all over at times. I have a little bit of concerns on the defense because of that, but I think Crosby is a legitimate. I don't think he's as good as Aaron Donald or anything like that, but I think he's a legitimate defensive player of the year candidate.
Yeah. Okay. We have an interesting super chat, $100 super chat. So thank you for the
Thank you.
super chat. What up, Jackson? I love the channel. I also love the Ravens. Go Ravens. Ravens are the best. Anyway, I'm gonna cut straight to it. I love your neck beard and need a side profile. And if you wouldn't mind, a little bit of the back of your neck. Going to the barber tomorrow. Thanks. I guess I have to do it, right? He gave me $100.
Yeah, I feel like you have to just give us a quick twirl.
Okay, yeah, I guess just there. Was that good, Kyle? Do you think that sufficed?
I think that suffices.
Okay. All right. Well, again, appreciate the $100 super chat
much.
very
Yeah.
much. We both appreciate that greatly. Back to the Raiders. I forget where we were at. Daniel Carlson, a tier 1 kicker, which that helps. 9.26 wins for the Raiders. That puts them at 16th in the NFL, 9th in the AFC. I do have them just on the outside of the playoffs right here, but I could see you fix a couple of these issues. If Rockison does work out, if you can somehow patch together this offensive line, or if Josh McDaniels plays, or Josh McDaniels doesn't look like Denver Broncos Josh McDaniels, I think this could be a playoff team.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like I said, I think that there are some things to really like. And I think if the receivers are able to dominate teams, I think that they can win this division. Like I said, I don't think it's that crazy to say the Raiders can win this division. I just think it's really tight. I have all these teams within 3 or 4 games of each other, basically at the most. So I think there's a lot of room for variance there. I just have right now, I have the Raiders on the outside because of my concerns. So you had him at 9.26 wins. When I did the schedule, I had him at 9-8. So we're kind of lock and step there.
Yeah. And it's especially possible it could win this division given how overrated it is.
You're still beating this drum. That's okay.
I think so.
I think I agree because I think that there's, at least 2 teams in the AFC better than anybody in this division. So,
yeah. Let's move on. Why don't we? Let's go to thank you for all the Raiders fans who are going to be checking out now. We appreciate all of you. Let's move on to number 3 on your list. So this is your list who you have as number 3 in this division.
Everyone's favorite team this season going into the offseason. I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Chargers here at number 3. Once again, a lot of things to like. Justin Herbert has really put himself into an MVP candidate. I still think he has some holes in his game. Like, I don't think he's a clear-cut tier 1 guy like people I think are hyping him to be. He is very good, though. He's fantastic. I wouldn't be surprised if he does win an MVP even this season. I think that there's really good parts of this offensive line. I think that there's, 2 good receivers, really good running back room, pretty good secondary, good pass rushers. There are a few things I don't love about this defense, and I don't think they addressed it enough to the point that I'm really sold on this team. I got them at 10-7, just on the outside of the playoffs. I got the Chargers here at number 3.
Yeah. The Chargers, a lot of star talent, and it starts with the, Justin Herbert at the top, who obviously is, one of the guys who, the biggest thing against him that people hold is he hasn't been through the playoffs. He is someone who could potentially be a future star for a long time. And then you also have Brandon Staley, who he's just an interesting guy to talk about, right? I think I'm pro Brandon Staley. I think you're maybe sort of hesitant on Brandon Staley. Would that be fair to say?
I think hesitant's fair. I think, I don't know. I get the analytics behind it. The numbers say probably on all of his situations, or almost all of his situations, go for it on 4th down, do this, do that.
More than all of the situations he does it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so be aggressive. I don't know. I feel like it's like watching a Madden game sometimes with him, where it's just like, okay, we're just going to do this because I feel like we should. I don't know. Sometimes I just watch it, though, and I'm just like, okay, I think we need to cool off. I think that there's a little bit of momentum that has to be taken into effect that obviously I don't think numbers can really calibrate at the same time. And at the same time, there's just some things I don't love about the whole go for it on 4th down when it's 4th and 1 sort of mindset.
Yeah, I love it. It helped him more than it hurt him last year. It won him more games than it lost him last year. But I think people remember the losses more than remember the wins. So I've been pro Brandon Staley. You know what? Let's start with the defense first. I want to do something a little bit different here. And here's why. Because we're talking about Brandon Staley. And when we're talking about Brandon Staley, we have to talk about his defensive mindset, which is just so fascinating to me, which is he's going to play cover 2 basically every play. He's going to put 2 safeties deep. And this is I love the going for it every, 4th down type mindset. The cover 2 stuff, or cover 4, really cover 4, but some cover 2 as well. 2 safety deep is what we're talking about. That's sort of an experiment that I'm fascinated in seeing how it worked out. Now, the issue was they couldn't cover even with an extra guy back there last year. So hopefully they're helping that out with, they just paid Derwin James a bunch of money. You still have Nasir Adderley, and they drafted JT Woods for the safeties. For the corners, I think the question is, so you have JC Jackson, who I think will fit that role well. You have Bryce Callahan, who's been a good slot receiver slot corner, over his career. I'm interested in this Asante Samuel Jr. stuff. I've never been a huge fan of him. And because of that, I don't love this depth. I also don't know how much I love their linebackers being able to cover. So it's a tier 4 coverage unit for me, even though they have Derwin James and JC Jackson on it.
I think that's fair though, because I think there are questions among the other guys. I think this linebacker group is still not very good. I think teams are going to be able to throw them over the middle on them, kind of like what you were saying. I'm also not exactly sold on Asante Samuel Jr. I think that's going to be a problem. We'll see if he can improve. But that being said, there is some real talent here with, like you said, Jackson and James, who's now the highest paid safety in football. So he's got that going for him. But yeah, I mean, those guys are going to be able to fly around on the football field. But the problem with the zone coverage setup is that there's a whole other side of the field that's going to be able to be thrown at. And
Right.
J.C. Jackson's not going to be there to cover it.
J.C. Jackson might not get a single ball thrown his way.
That's the thing, too. And so this guy has been a man corner virtually his entire career. And not only that, he's been a man corner who gets a lot of interceptions and turnovers. If he's sitting in a zone, basically not getting thrown at and not getting a lot of turnovers, is that really what's best for his game? I'm not exactly sold on that. Like, I think he'll be good. But I'm not exactly sold on that fit.
No, I get what you're saying. He would fit. He adds more value in a Ravens like scheme, but I still think that it's the right strategy to go out and when you have a J.C. Jackson, you can go get J.C. Jackson. Worry about it later. Also, super chat. Zachary Stewart breaking the FBI raided SoFi Stadium for Chargers fans. They found nothing. Oh, how dare you, Zachary Stewart? The poor Chargers. I'm sure there are dozens of Chargers fans out
there. Dozens at least.
Yeah. Yes.
At least 1 dozen.
No, right. And again, for coverage, we always talk about it's a weak link position. You got to figure that out. But maybe Samuel Jr. will take a step forward and then it's solved. And then this coverage unit looks awesome because that's literally all they need to do. The front 7 is also fascinating because, again, these are the guys that really have to step up. They have a lot on their plate. And I don't know if I love all of their moves, like the Austin Johnson, Sebastian Joseph Day. I like them. I don't know if I, think they're great. They should add to this team, certainly, because it's a position of need. There's Jerry Tillery in there, if you haven't given up on him yet. For the edge rushers is very good. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, who, listen, is Mack still the guy that he was when he was with, his first year of Chicago? Probably not, but he's still a very good player. You have Kyle Van Noy in there as well, who kind of plays some linebacker on top of it. Linebackers, Kenneth Murray, Drew Tranquil, Troy Reader. So, I have it as tier 4 run defense in a tier 3 pass rush, which is a bit concerning given the fact that their kind of entire setup is that they have one less guy to stop the run, and I have it as a tier 4 talent.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think similar to Chandler Jones, Khalil Mack, I feel like is more than just kind of a pure pass rush guy at this point. And I think that's fine. He's going to be able to fill that role very well.
I would say he's better than Jones, but he's not the run defender he once was.
Right. So I still think I agree. And that also helps Joey Bosa. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you that I'm just concerned about this front 3. I don't think this front 3 is good enough to win football games. And we just saw time and time again, as fun as this offense was, we saw teams run right down the middle of this team. What have we seen from this? What have we seen from this group that we think that's going to change? Joseph Day?
Yeah, I mean, I like those guys. Like they're solid. Like they'll help, but I'm not sure how much they're moving the needle.
Yeah, I just don't think that they're going to move the needle enough. So I think, I think that they're going to fall back a little bit. Still, I think they're going to struggle against the run. And then even with that, I think that they're going to struggle covering the pass too, just because of like the reasons we said above.
Yeah, would have helped them more if they went out and got Aaron Donald.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's move on to their offense now. Let's start off with their weapons. Weapons are good, but again, there's a depth issue here. That's the thing about the Chargers is there's a lot of depth issues across this team. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, very good. One of the better top 2 wide receivers in the league, but you can double 2 guys. What happens after that is Gerald Everett. I don't know why I was calling it's Gerald. Gerald Everett, who's maybe he'll be that guy over the middle. They couldn't get a lot going over the middle. Maybe it's Donald Parham who can do it. The depth of Josh Palmer, Jalen Guyton, DeAndre Carter, I don't love their depth here. It's tier 3 for me in the wide receiver room, even with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams.
Yeah, I think that's fair because I think we basically had it the same group last time and said the same thing. It might just be copy and paste. Honestly, it feels like the same conversation where I think those 2 are good. I don't really know anybody else behind it. Like I think Josh Palmer could get better, but still, he wasn't that great. Like, he's really got to prove himself, I think, as a number 3 receiver. And I think, I don't know if it's completely fair, but at the same time, Mike Williams has been consistently inconsistent his whole career. He had a breakout year this past season that I thought was his best year, but can he keep that up? I think it's fair to ask those questions.
Yeah, I think so as well. The running backs, you have Austin Eckler, who I like a lot. You have Isaiah Spiller, a 4th rounder that is drafted, and Joshua Kelly in that mix. I have it as a tier 3 halfback rooms. I think some people are higher on Austin Eckler than maybe I am. He does a lot of stuff, in the receiving game as well, which I sort of, maybe he's the 3rd receiver. I don't know. But that's where I have their halfbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I think Austin Eckler is actually one of my sleepers for a potential offensive player of the year. There might be too many guys on this Chargers offense to make it happen, but I think he's that good. I think he's that talented. I think he can do a little bit of everything. I really like Isaiah Spiller too. I've been a fan of his since he was at Texas A&M. And like you said, I think that group's just going to work. But yeah, I mean, I think there's potential for that. But that being said, I think there's just too many weapons for him to get that kind of touches.
Yeah, Kyle, I'm taken aback by the potential offensive player of the year, Austin Eckler.
Sleeper. But at the same time, like, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities.
I looked up the list of offensive player of the year odds. There's about 50 names. Austin Eckler, here he is, plus 6,000. So there's a chance.
I'll put a little tenner on that.
Yeah, there you go. We'll put $100 on it and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, might as well at that point. But yeah, I mean, I like his game. So
yeah, sure. All right. I wasn't expecting to be that good, actually. I was expecting to be a lot worse than that. So maybe you're onto something. Offensive line is, you kind of talked about the inconsistencies of it. You have, for the interior, Corey Linsley, very good when he's on the field. You have Matt Feeler for one of the guards. You drafted Zion Johnson as the other guard. And there's Rashawn Slater for left tackle. All that stuff I feel good about. I think Zion Johnson will step in and be good right away. The question is that, other tackle position. It's like, are we really going to get another year of Storm Norton at tackle? Maybe Trey Pipkins can be the guy. He's more of a depth guy. I don't know. The other tackle position is concerning for me for their offensive line. It's probably the worst part. I wouldn't say it's the worst part about. It's the worst part about this team in terms of just one position potentially, but like every other part of this team, it's they're really good, but they have this depth issue. So I have it as tier 2 because I like the other 4 guys, but that 5th guy is a question.
It is a question. I don't love that tackle spot, and you know what? I like Zion Johnson out of the draft, but at the same time, we still got to see it. So I mean, if that doesn't work out, you're looking at potentially this right side of this offensive line kind of cratering it. But that being said, it can't get better as far as center, left guard, left tackle. That might be the best 3-man offensive line combination in the league. But yeah, I mean, I am concerned about those 2, and they don't have an awesome blocking tight end also to help out. So I'm a little concerned about that group overall because of that spot.
Yeah, so I have the Chargers with 8.78 total wins. That's 19th in football, 10th in the AFC. I have them finishing behind the Raiders. I think my frustration with the Chargers is, a lot of people gave them there's a lot of hype after all the talent they acquired this offseason. But I felt like they had a lot of resources and maybe could have used it in better ways.
I think I agree too. They went out and got some big time players. But we'll see. I mean, they're banking on some of these guys to at least, I don't even think they're banking on being the best run defense in football. I think they're banking on trying to be good enough. And if Samuel develops a little bit, then all of a sudden this is a very good defense. It works out. This team's probably making a run at a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and listen, the one thing I'll say is, I'm a big fan of Brandon Staley, and I think everyone's a huge fan of Justin Herbert. So it's like, if that's what you have to do, like if Justin Herbert has to will you to a playoff spot, that could happen.
Yeah. I have them just outside the playoffs, but I could see a scenario, like I said, where this team is winning this division. I think this team's really talented. I think it's on its way. And like I said, I think Herbert's going to have himself in the conversation for MVP this season. I think he's going to be one of the top 5 guys.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all if that happens. 2 teams left, the Broncos and the Chiefs. Where are you going? Who is going to win the division? And tell me that by who you have finishing second in the division.
All right. So There are a lot of things to love about this team. Namely, maybe the best quarterback in football, maybe the best tight end in football,
Wow.
maybe the best offensive line in football. There's a lot of things to not love about this team. It could potentially be the worst secondary in the league this season. I think that's a possibility. You lost your top receiver, who's debatably a top 5 receiver in this league. And not to mention, you're just looking through this team, and yeah, there's things to like, But then I keep thinking, like, this team could start 3 rookies this year. Even if I like those rookies, it's starting 3 rookies this year. I got the Kansas City Chiefs at number 2. I got them 1 game back of our division winners. Like I said, a lot of things to love. Patrick Mahomes is legit. He's fantastic. I think there's going to be a huge change of this offense based on what the defenses were throwing at them last year, and now that they've let Tyreek Hill go. But that being said, I think it's going to be fine. I still think they're going to make the playoffs with ease. I just have them second in this division.
All right. We got plenty to argue about here, I think, with these final 2 teams. So this is good. It should be a exciting final 30 minutes of this podcast. Well, the first thing that has to be said is you are betting against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, which is historically not something you want to bet against.
I understand it. I get it. I know exactly where I'm at in this position. And that being said, I'm okay with it because there's 21 other players on this team. There's 21 other players that have to play on this team, and I think that's going to be a bit of a problem. That being said, I think especially on offense, Patrick Mahomes is going to make up for a lot of deficiencies, and those deficiencies start at the wide receiver spots where there's plenty of concern, I think. But that being said, when you have Patrick Mahomes, you can't really worry that much, which I'm not actually worried that much about wide receiver. I just think Mahomes is going to make a lot of this work.
Yeah, well, let's go there. So, yeah, Mahomes, tier 1, Andy Reid, my 6th head coach, very good. No, denying that. We don't have to talk forever about that. The wide receivers, I think this is an underrated group. I do. I think that there's some talent here. I think that I like Travis Kelsey a lot. I think Travis Kelsey he's someone you throw to, and he never blocks, so he's basically a wide receiver. He's someone who's going to be a consistent guy who can get open on 3rd downs. You have guys like McCole Hardman, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Juju Smith-Schuster, who are all, I don't know, maybe not the best number 2 in the world, but good number 3 guys who I think that, when you have 3 of those guys and neither one of them have to be the first option because Kelsey is there, that's solid. And you did draft Sky Moore, who I think could be a guy, it's hard to predict with wide receivers, but there's definitely potential there. I have it as a tier 3 group. I think there's a lot of depth here, even if there's maybe not a ton of stars. You still do have 1 star in Travis Kelsey.
Yeah, Kelsey is the star here, but I mean, I do feel like that's a little speculative because I mean, like, I think Moore has the potential to be good. I agree with that. And, even a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster, yes, it was disappointing, and the stuff and the drama in Pittsburgh, I think, with the videos and all that, I think people were kind of just fed up with them. That being said, like, is it crazy to think, like, Juju Smith-Schuster could be Sammy Watkins in this offense and do it probably a little bit better?
Yeah, and be on the field for more than 3 games a year. Like it's not great. It's totally reasonable to suspect that Juju Smith-Schuster could at least be like a good contributor, given the fact that his crime was he wasn't able to play well when Ben Roethlisberger was basically throwing, with his left hand towards the end of his career.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's that. We could bank on Josh Gordon, who will have 1 touchdown to get everybody excited before he's suspended again. But, I mean, I'm still concerned about this group because I think one of the things was, we talked about, I mean, everybody talked about this. It wasn't just us. It was everybody talking about how, this deep coverage defense is getting to the Chiefs. This deep coverage is deep. And you know what? Mahomes throws a really great deep ball, and that adds to it. But a lot of teams are running these deep coverages because Tyreek Hill's on the other side of the field. I think Hardman and Valdes-Scantling are pretty good in that group, but they're not Tyreek Hill. So how does that change this offense? Because, Kelsey's not going to have the zone buster type of plays if Tyreek Hill's not keeping defenses honest all the time. I think that makes it a little more difficult. So I think, if Kelsey's numbers go down a little bit because of it, I wouldn't be surprised, even if I think that it's going to be okay overall. Yeah,
listen, the receiving core definitely taking a big hit with the loss of Tyreek Hill. I hate this running back room. I think this running back room is horrible. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Ronald Jones, Jerick McKinnon. This is 32nd overall for me, the running back room.
So are you buying the Isaiah Pacheco hype?
No. I haven't. I'm not saying I'm not buying it. This is news to me.
So There was talk early in training camp that he's
Oh God.
showing out and he's going to start this offseason. He's going to start this season.
I mean, Kyle, you would have a chance to start with this running back room.
I mean, that's possible. But yeah,
can you catch? You're ahead of Ronald Jones.
Yeah. I mean, I like McKinnon as a secondary back. I'll give him that.
Sure. I like all these guys as a secondary back. I think they're all good as secondary back.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Pacheco takes that job from Edwards-Helaire and then all of a sudden, like, you know, all of a sudden that's the duo. It's him and if it's him and Jerick McKinnon and Pacheco's good as a rookie, like this is all of a sudden okay because they got a good offensive line in front of them too. So I don't think there's really too much to worry about. But yeah, I mean it's not great.
Yeah, and we'll be playing a lot of cover too. So whoever's running will get like 5 yards per carry, just given the the schemes they'll be going up against. The offensive line, you have Orlando Brown Jr. in the mix. You have Andrew Wiley as the other tackle. Interior very good with Creed Humphrey, Joe Thuney, and Trey Smith. I actually have this tier 3. It was one spot away from tier 2, so it's just barely not tier 2. Mostly due to I don't know if I love Wiley as the other tackle there, so that dropped at some spots.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it has potential to be really good. But like you said, it's one of those offensive line can be a weak link position sometimes. So if he, if he's not up to par, I think it hurts it a little bit, but I think it's good enough.
Yeah. So offense, 4th best in football, according to me. But as you talked about, so here's, I think, where we'll get into some. So I don't love this defense. I don't think anyone loves this defense, but I don't hate it as much as it seems like maybe saying you hate it is too strong. But there's stuff I like about this defense. I think the coverage, I don't think is horrible. I think the coverage is fine. I think L'Jarius Sneed, Rashad Fenton, and Trent McDuffie, who they just drafted in the 1st round. Hey, you got DeAndre Baker in there. Maybe he'll do something. You have corners in the mix who can do stuff, and you have some depth. You have Juan Thornhill, who was good last year when he finally, wasn't behind Daniel Sorensen. Brian Cook, who I was very high on. They drafted him in the 2nd round. Justin Reed could be a very interesting signing. His PFF grade was not great his last year in Houston, but he's had good years in Houston. So I think in this scheme, I think it would actually work out really well. So I have it as tier 3. It's not something I'm crazy about, but I think this is a far cry from one of the worst secondaries in football.
Well, I just, I look at it and, this was a defense that I think ranked, I'm trying to find the number here. It ranked 26th defensively last season, and it ranked 25th against the pass last year. And like, there's still players I kind of like Thornhill, I like Reed, but at the same time, like I think Sneed's just okay. And the 2 guys I really liked on this secondary were Tyrann Mathieu and Charvarius Ward. And I think you're replacing them basically with lesser players at this point. And if it's just bad with those 2 in the lineup, if those 2 are out of the lineup and you're replacing with guys who I don't think are as good, I think that's going to hurt it a little bit. Yeah,
but I mean, how much of that too was the fact that for whatever reason the Chiefs thought that Daniel Sorensen should be a starter for how many games?
Yeah, so the first half of the season I think definitely affected the numbers. But that being said, I still think that, in a situation where you're either asking Rashad Fenton or rookie Trent McDuffie to replace Charvarius Ward, who I thought was their, one of their better defensive players last season, I think that's a tough ask. And, anybody to replace Tyrann Mathieu, I think is also a tough ask. I just think that I could see the bottom falling out a little bit in this group.
Yeah, I think I am more, more bullish on this team, but I definitely get the concerns. I don't love this coverage unit. I just don't hate it. I think it's fine.
The best thing it has going for it, I think, is that these linebackers can fly around a little bit. I think that's their best thing about this coverage group because it takes a little bit of the middle of the field. But I think, just overall, I think especially we saw it in that Bengals game at times, you can kind of get outside this team.
Yeah, the Nick Bolton and Willie Gay both were top 20 graded linebackers last year in terms of PFF. They also just drafted Leo Chenal in the 3rd round, someone who many thought should be higher than a 3rd round pick. And for the rest of the front 7, interior, you got Chris Jones, who's fantastic. Keep him on the inside. Don't move to the edge. That's great. That's where he thrives. Derek Nottie and Taylor Stallworth as the other interiors, and then for the edge guys, you have Frank Clark still there, Michael Dana still there, and George Karlaftis, who I'm a big fan of. I like Karlaftis a lot. Chris Jones is doing a lot of the work here, but Chris Jones is really good. So I have it as tier 3 run defense and tier 3 pass rush for me.
I think I agree with that. Like I said, Willie Gay is making me look kind of smart. I was really high on him out of the draft. He had some character issues. But I mean, he's one of the best athletes probably on this team, just, across the whole roster. Bolton's obviously really good too. Jones is fantastic. Another one. So I said, sleeper buzz for Austin Eckler. This isn't sleeper. This is me putting my money where my mouth is. George Karlaftis, Defensive Rookie of the Year. How do you like that?
Oh, I can see it. I can see it, especially because, he'll get some primetime games of playing on the Chiefs, could get in some, big moments. And yeah, I can see it. I think it's going to be tough. I think Aiden Hutchinson seems like he's just a guy who is definitely going to jump into the league and be great right away. So, maybe you might take a little, but we said the same thing about Chase Young, but then Chase Young still won it because, people like Chase Young because they liked him out of the draft. So I think you got some work to do just being a late first round pick.
Yeah, I think it is, but it's there was a huge stretch where there wasn't a lot of players taken, defensive players taken. And so it's kind of like, okay, Hutchinson, yes. I think Walker and Thibodeau might take a little bit of time. And so all of a sudden, one's on the Lions, one's going to play every big game on the Chiefs. I think there's an argument for Karlaftis to take this award.
Yeah. I think so as well. Tier 2 kicker, Harrison Butker. Here's what's interesting, Kyle. I had this team as 4th best offense, tied for the 18th best defense. I had them as 12th in the NFL, 8th in the AFC, but I do have them making the playoffs as the division winners of this division. This is the team, this division, I do not have a single top 7 AFC team in.
Wow. Okay. So what did you have their win total at?
11.33. So I think they're a good team.
11.33. Okay. I had them at 11-6. So that means we really disagree on this last team. That being said, I think I agree. So basically the Chiefs are banking on basically that setup where they think their offense is going to be good no matter what because they have Mahomes, they have Kelsey, they have Andy Reid, which they'll probably still end up in the top, I think, 7 in the league. I think they're banking on hopefully this defense kind of sticking to that top 20-ish. Where things get concerning is that this group falls to 25 or lower.
Yeah, I think so. I think that this is a team where you're right. I don't know. They're just a weird team where they don't have a ton of. I just feel like they could have done more. That's kind of how I feel about this. You got rid of Tyreek Hill. I would have liked to see them do more to the receiving core. They didn't do nothing. They didn't go full Packers, but I still feel like they could have done more. I feel like they could have added another guy in the secondary. So I like this team, but I don't love this team. However, if Patrick Mahomes becomes is like what he was in that Bills game for the whole playoff run, then the Chiefs win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think so. I think that they got that kind of talent. So I think I agree a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. Zachary Stewart has a question. If Johnny Fairplay was the coach of this team, how far would they go? Kyle, do you get this reference at all?
No, I don't know who Johnny Fairplay is.
Yeah, Johnny Fairplay, of course, the great Survivor player.
Oh, all right. There we go.
Yeah. I don't know. Survivor's a fun show. Check it out sometime. Let's move on. Number 1 on the list, the Denver Broncos. Kyle, I have the Denver Broncos as worst in this division. So we are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum here. I am surprised to hear you so high on this team. You are probably surprised to hear me so low on this team. So let's get into it. Why do you have them winning the division?
Well, we've been talking about this team as being a quarterback away for what feels like forever now. And they finally have that quarterback. Okay, so I'm going through this roster here. And there's just a ton to really like about this team. Obviously, Russell Wilson, I'm a little skeptical because I think he really struggled last year in the second half. But I think he's still going to be okay. I think he's still going to be solid. And I think he can make a run back up to tier 1 quarterback. I think there's a chance Javonte Williams is talked about as a top 3 running back in the AFC by the end of the season. I think he's that good. And then I just go through this group and, I mean, obviously we're going to disagree because you had this 4th in your division rankings, but I don't see how any of these groups are basically tier 3, lower than tier 3. I think it's a solid offensive line. I think it's a solid pass catching group. I think it's a solid secondary. I think it's a solid linebackers, and I think it's solid defensive line. I think you can maybe make an argument the weakest position is wide receiver because I don't think they have the star, but I think they got 3 or 4 very good guys. So I like the Broncos to win this division. I got them at 12-5. I got them. I think they're going to be an interesting team. I got the Broncos number 1.
Yeah, well, first off, another $50 super chat. I mean, guys, thank you for this. Is been one of our more profitable podcasts of all time. You guys are my plug for everything going on in the football world. Jackson, I have been watching you since you were just doing single vids. You and Kyle are made for this. Wish I could have joined live. Started from the beginning. And I should mention, diehard New York Giants fan. And for that, yeah, condolences. But yes, thank you so much, Joe. We do appreciate that. Thank you for both of the super chats. We do appreciate all of those very much. Back to the football in the Denver Broncos stuff. Kyle, here's my counter argument to everything you just said. The second thing you brought up was a running back.
It's just part of it all mixed together. I think it's a really complete team.
But
part of a complete team, a good running back.
So here's my thing: is you said nothing's going to be a lot lower than tier 3. I have a couple lower than tier 3, but I also think the issue is there's nothing a lot higher than tier 3. And I guess let's just get into it and let's start off with Russell Wilson is the he's a tier 2 quarterback for me right now. He has the potential to get back to tier 1. He is the big addition, and he is the exciting thing to talk about. And listen, getting Russell Wilson is definitely going to help your football team. So that's an obvious that's the best part about this team.
Yeah, I think I still think he's a fantastic football player, even though he had some struggles. I think that's going to be one of his better offensive lines he played behind, which is, saying something. That being said, he's not playing with the same receivers that he had last season. That being said, I do think he's fantastic when he's at his best. I think his ability to move around, make plays happen is going to do a lot for this offense and could vault it even higher.
Yeah, I think so as well. Nathaniel Hackett is interesting as well, as I'm a 25th on my head coach rankings, but largely due to him being just new, and I didn't know how to rate him. I always am lower on the new guys, so chance that could be a lot better as well.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how he does as a head coach. I think that's one thing that's going to be interesting. But yeah, I mean, glowing endorsement. I think before the hire, I think it's going to be I think he's got a good chance to be a good coach.
Yeah. You talked about the receivers. I had the receivers as tier 3. The Tim Patrick injury sucks. There's no getting around that. Cortland Sutton, I like. Jerry Jeudy, I like. Don't know if I love either of them, but I like them both. And then, KJ Hamler, who is, we need to see him more on the field. I think, only 609 career snaps. You have Seth Williams, the 6th rounder. You got some good tight ends with Albert O and Greg Dulcich, who I like. They drafted him in the 3rd round. And then you have Eric Tomlinson, who's more of just a run blocker. So, there's depth here, but there is not the star talent. So I have it as tier 3.
And I think that's fair because, I mean, I like Sutton, and I think Jeudy could eventually, become that kind of star player, but we haven't seen it yet. And I think we got to see it before we can put him in that conversation. Hamler, I think, could be a real big-time deep threat guy. I think he has a chance to take a lead this season because of his big playability. And, they lost Noah Fant, who I do like Noah Fant, but I also kind of like Ogwegbenum too. I think this could be a good group overall because of those 4 guys leading the way.
Yeah, I think so as well. You have the halfbacks, Javonte Williams, who you mentioned, who, I think everyone really likes. You also have Melvin Gordon, who, also very good. Tier 2 running back room for me. It was number 6. There's just 5 running back rooms I like better, but this is very good.
Yeah, good duo. And like I said, very high on Javonte Williams. I think he has a chance to end up as potentially the 3rd or 4th best running back in the AFC at the end of the season. And I just think he's really talented. And I think, I don't think Melvin Gordon's the same guy he was at his peak, but I still think he's a pretty darn good backup. That's a pretty good duo. Yeah.
And then for the offensive line, with the, I think it's a consistent. I think it's a consistent offensive line again, similar kind of to the wide receivers maybe, where they don't have a lot of stars, but they have quality players. Garrett Bowles is probably the star of this offensive line at tackle. You also have Billy Turner from the Packers. How many snaps will we get out of him? We'll see. Guards, Dalton Risner, Quinn Martinez, and then center Lloyd Cushenberry. Those guys have been solid. across the board. So I have it as actually 16th. So right in the middle of the pack for tier 3 offensive line.
Yeah, and I think, guys like Cushion Bear's getting better, which could even move this group up a little bit. It's still a pretty young offensive line, too. So I'm still pretty high on it. And I think that, too, with, when you talk about this receiver group doesn't have star talent. Well, when you got a pretty good offensive line and you got a quarterback like Russell Wilson who can buy time and make plays happen, that's going to help an okay receiver group become pretty good, too. I think that's also going to add to this offense and make it really good.
Sure. So I have it as the 11th best offense in football. As for the defense, again, so I have this coverage unit as tier 4, but it's one spot away from tier 3. So it's one of those, like, they have a couple where they're just like one spot away from being better. Maybe that hurts their overall, definitely hurts their overall win total a little. So keep that in mind. But, Justin Simmons, huge fan. Kareem Jackson, I would assume he's washed up, right? I mean, he's 34 years old. He was not great last year. He's usually great. I think it's fair to operate under the assumption that he is not what he once was. For the corners, you have Patrick Surtain, who was solid as a rookie. Will he take a step forward, though, or not? I don't know. Part of my concern with him was that, coming out of draft is that he's probably going to be better right away than some of these other corners, but what's his ceiling? So this might be what he is, which is just a good, solid corner, which, hey, you'll take that. Ronald Darby, who is very up and down. You have Kareem Williams, who, again, it's solid. It's another, this kind of a trend of this team is they're almost the opposite of the Chargers in that they have a bunch of guys who are okay, but they maybe don't have the star talent here, which maybe is okay in the coverage unit situation.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that this group could be pretty good too, because we talked about it last year as potentially one of the best in football. Now, last season, two of these guys, Ronald Darby and Kareem Jackson, had two of their worst seasons, I think, to date. Now, obviously, Kareem Jackson, the age thing is a concern, but it could just also be a one-off season. Like, we don't know yet. Let's see a little more data. I think he can bounce back and be a little bit better, and same thing with Darby, too. And if those two get a little bit better and back kind of, they don't have to get back to their best level, but at least pretty good level, and then Surtain takes a step forward, this all of a sudden becomes a very good coverage unit.
Yeah, I think this is a good comment where it says Denver's defense will get worse without Fangio. That's kind of what I think is like this was the 22nd rated coverage unit last year. It did not live up to the hype by any means, even though we thought it was going to be good heading into the season. I can't imagine that losing one of the best defensive minds of our time is going to help this coverage unit. Now, maybe just maybe it'll still just bounce back. Maybe it was a weird year. I don't know. But I have to feel like that's going to hurt, not help.
It's possible. Yeah, I mean, I think I agree because obviously, Fangio has done a lot for, a lot of teams basically have carbon copied his defense, and that's kind of the modern defense right now.
Yeah, that's what teams do now.
Yeah, so, I think I agree, but at the same time, like, could guys have quit on him last year? Like, I still think there's good players on here that it's going to be fine. Like, another part of this, once again, with this coverage unit too, is their linebackers cover well. So I think it adds to it. I think that they're going to be able to do a lot of things pretty well.
Yeah, sure. Again, linebackers, Josie Jewell, Alex Singleton, Baron Browning. For the rest of the front seven, the edge rusher, Bradley Chubb, who I like. I think Bradley Chubb's good. He didn't play a lot last year, but he's a good edge rusher. You have Randy Gregory, who you just added. Nick Benito, who I'm fascinated by, who was a second-round pick. Interested in seeing how that works out. The interior, DJ Jones, who's very good. Draymond Jones, who's solid. Deshaun Williams, who's solid. Mike Purcell, who is good. So you have, again, it's just that thing where it's like, it's just consistent across the board. I have it as a tier 3 pass rush and a tier 4 run defense. You could probably talk me into that run defense being tier 3, but again, because they have a lot of depth here. And even their kicker, I have is Brandon McManus, tier 3 kicker. So a lot of tier 3s and 4s for me here, which is why I have the Broncos with 7.52 wins. That's 21st in football, 12th in the AFC, not making the playoffs and being 4th in the division. 7.5 wins is still not a bad record, but I do have them last in this, division with no bad teams.
Yeah, and you know what? I look at some of these, like, I think this run defense could actually be pretty good. I like Jones. I like Purcell. I like the linebackers. And like you said, there was a lot of splash. There's a lot of money thrown around for the edge rushers in this division. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being the best one with Chubb and Gregory. I think that's a really good duo. I think they're going to be able to get after the quarterback. I think this is going to be a really talented group overall, and I like this front seven a whole lot.
Yeah. Maybe. Again, potentially. I just think that I think that there's a lack of star talent across the board with this team. I mean, you look at okay, so take Russell Wilson out of the equation. Who are their best three players? It's probably like Justin Simmons, right? And then is it Garrett Bowles and Bradley Chubb? Is that the best three? Like that's not a great best three outside of the quarterback.
Well, the hope is also guys like Patrick Surtain get in that conversation. So it's like, okay, so if Josie Jewell is in that conversation too, I think Josie Jewell is really good. So like you look at this defense, if Simmons is really good, if Jewell's really good again, if Chubb's healthy is really good again, if Surtain's, takes a leap forward and looks like that top 10 pick, like that's a lot of star talent, I think, on that defensive side of the ball that's going to be really good.
I guess so. I mean, but that it's a lot of ifs.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is Chubb has to stay on the field, and I think overall, I liked a lot what I saw from Surtain. I think he's on a star's path. I really think he's on that path, and I think it's going to add a lot to that secondary.
You said from Surtain?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess so. Again, he's just been one of those guys who I've just never bought into the hype as much as everyone else is. So maybe that's just the me versus everyone else thing. I've never been blown away by Patrick Surtain.
Yeah, but I don't think you could have asked more from him from his rookie season at cornerback, which is historically one of the harder positions in football to kind of work out. And I thought he was very good. I think he's on a star path because of that. And I think he's well on his way to becoming one of the better players at that position.
I just, again, he was 39th according to PFF last year out of the cornerback position. You're right. That is very impressive for a rookie. But I think that, I think that his skill, sort of his thing was that he was a very polished corner coming out of the draft. I think the concern is he isn't the best athlete compared to some of these other guys.
It's possible, but we'll see. I mean, we've seen guys with good, good form and good, I think just good overall fundamentals have a long way in this league. I think he's on that path with Simmons too, and I think Darby's going to bounce back. There's just a lot I really like about this defense. I like a lot of these players. I think it's going to click, and then I think by default the offense should be a lot better because it has Russell Wilson under center.
Yeah, I guess so. I see it again. Deep football is a depth position, and that's the one thing they do have going for them is they have depth.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think all of these teams could potentially win 12 or 13 games. I think all of these teams could potentially win 7 or 8 games if things go wrong. Like, what would be the most shocking? Like the Chiefs struggle?
Most shocking to me being the Chiefs. Probably, but I could see either of these. I could see any of these teams struggling. I really could. I think all these teams have weaknesses. I don't think there is. I literally don't have a single top 7 team in this division. I got every team I have is solid, is above 7 wins. But I think every team here has a weakness, and they're kind of getting. It's a great quarterback division, which is that's the most important position in football. But I think every team has a weakness.
I think that's true. I think part of the reason why I like the Broncos is I feel better about their weaknesses than others, even if there's not stars. But that being said,
their weakness is that they don't have any stars. Like their weakness is less about a position grouping that sucks and more about just their lack of star talent.
Right, but I just feel like it's a pretty complete football team because of that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I could see it happening, but I think about if this Broncos team is playing the Raiders team, or even let's just say if the Broncos are playing the Chiefs. I just trust Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid to figure out ways to beat a complete but maybe not star-studded defense. I just do.
Yeah. I mean, I think so too. That's what I mean. I haven't finished in second in the division. I have them 1 game behind Denver, so it's not like I think they're going to be terrible. But yeah, I mean, that's the two sides you're looking at. Where I feel like the Chiefs have a ton of holes, but they have the stars, I think, that can make up for it. Where I feel like the Broncos have less holes, but they don't necessarily have the stars that put them over the top that set a couple guys.
Yeah. Well, listen, we'll see how it works. It'll be fun to check out. I think you and I both have always you've been more of you want a complete team. I've kind of been more of I want a team that has the star talent at the right positions. And it can work both ways. There's both sides of the coin. I guess I would say you have the Rams, who maybe aren't the most complete team last year, but they had a bunch of stars that could get it done. And then you have the Seahawks, who were, a team built upon star talent last year and completely sucked. So we'll see, where these teams fall in next year.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's the most interesting division. I think you look at the quarterbacks, it's going to be really fun. I think all of these teams could be, like I said, I think you could argue all of these teams 1 through 4. It's just it's fun to talk about all these guys and see how it's breakdown.
Yeah. Should be a lot of fun. Next week, we'll be doing another fun division, the AFC South, everyone's favorite division.
Everyone's favorite division.
Is there ever going to be a time where people like talking about the AFC South? I mean, we like it. We like talking about football. We don't have a lot going on. Football is fun for us, but for the normals.
I guess maybe if like Trevor Lawrence and Malik Willis become awesome, then maybe.
So no.
No, probably not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that should be. I don't know. It'll be an interesting division to talk about. I think we'll have some hot takes there as well. The AFC is really where the hot takes lie.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that like there's like 11 good teams. Like I was doing the division. I was doing the breakdown by schedule this season. For the season, I have 3 10-7 teams missing the playoffs. I have 2 9-8 teams potentially missing the playoffs. There's a lot of good teams, I think, in the AFC.
Oh yeah, I have the Chiefs as an 11.3 win team, and they're 8th in the AFC. I mean, there's a lot of good teams there.
Yeah, a lot of talent, a lot of depth. It should be fun. It's going to be fun to talk about next week too with the AFC South.
Yes. So Kyle, only 2 of these podcasts left.
Only two previews left. We're not going anywhere.
Right. Only 2. Yes. Only 2 of the previews left. Correct. Yeah. And then we will have a lot of good content. I mean, football season. I mean, we're in the middle of preseason. I mean, this is Kyle. You watch any preseason?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Fair. That's reasonable.
I'm preparing for my college football season. That's what I'm doing.
Okay. Go Wake Forest. What are Deacons?
Demon Deacons. Yeah.
Demon Deacons. Yeah. What were they doing there? Who came up with that?
I don't know. It's an old school. I don't know. I'm trying to talk myself into putting money down on Jackson Smith and Jigba to win Heisman. I don't even know if that's English to you, but
okay, I don't have an opinion on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep going back and forth on it, but that's what I'm leaning right now. A lot of love for college football is going to start here in 10 days. 10 days. Yeah.
Listen, it should be fascinating. I always check out a little bit of it. I don't know. It just feels like I always feel like I'm going to have to watch this anyways later on when I do my draft stuff. So why am I, watching it, spending twice the time watching it?
Yeah, I mean, you could watch week 0. There's at least that.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, no. It should, I never went to college. Like, I don't have a team.
I mean, I guess that's fair. I mean, I went to a D2 college, but I went to a D1 college for a little bit. Then I transferred to a D2 college. But I don't know. I love the pop and circumstance of college. It's like, it's so ridiculous. You have to love it.
Yeah, that's true. There's fun stuff that comes out of college, for sure. Kyle, let them know to find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is @Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me @ByKyleGronin, and make sure to follow the account page @OnTheSidelineJK. That's @OnTheSidelineJK.
Yes, of course, anywhere you get your audio podcast, if you want to listen to the audio only feed, on the Sideline Podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, that should be available. Kyle, any final thoughts?
Looking forward to football season. It is just 22 days away. I think that's what I had. 22 days.
I also like this going. Stop with 2 Ps trying to fit in jokes. Just talk about football. Listen, I think really we're trying to fit in football while we make jokes.
That's really what this podcast is. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I just love the random mean comments that come out.
Well, do you want us to be robots? I mean, we can do that.
Well, it's like obviously not. Like most people but there's like one person that's like, "Oh, I wish the content was this way," and then just like gets mad at us for not having. Like, I don't know, make your own podcast and make it just be about football.
It's all right. I'll tune in. Let me know. Send the link.
Yeah. Listen, can't please everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we got plenty of podcasts like.
Oh, well, maybe people agree with him. Yeah, stop making jokes. I guess they're on. I guess actually that's the people agree with those guys.
Listen, the only joke on this podcast has been the 2 of us on camera.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Again, good stuff. Appreciate everyone. Even the mean comments. We like you all. We appreciate every one of you. We appreciate the people that gave us a ridiculous amount of money a little bit more though.
Yes. Yeah. We appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
We even, showed off our neck beards. So, just throw some cash down. We'll do a lot.
And listen, is this a neck beard? I feel like this is just me being lazy and not shaving.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not much of a neck beard, but it's okay.
Yeah, this is just I haven't shaved because I don't like shaving.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yes, okay. Thanks you to everyone who watched live or watched after the fact or listened after the fact or listened live. I guess maybe you could do that, listening on a different feed. We appreciate you all. Thank you to everybody. And until next time, which should be, are we doing, no, I guess we should ask, are we doing this a normal time next week?
Yeah, normal time's fine. Let's go back to 5 o'clock.
Okay, so 5 a week from today on Wednesday. That will be Wednesday the 24th at 5. So check us out then. And until next time, see you later, alligator.
Broncos Nation, let's ride.
Why would you? Okay, whatever. Goodbye.